everybody. I'm Frank Morano. You're watching Liquid Lunch on Newsmax TV. John Tobacco is hanging out with the Vice President in Florida. He'll be back tomorrow live from Miami on the eve of the first presidential debates of the 2020 election cycle. But John's loss is my gain because I get to be beside the lovely, talented, and intelligent Erins. Erin Sykes and Erin Elmore, and it was decided during a commercial break conference that rather than call them Ms. Sykes and Ms. Elmore, that we're going to say Sykes and Elmore. Now, they signed a consent form to this extent. I'm not being rude. I'm not being disrespectful. That's their preference. Now, a couple of other stories we're watching. Boy George still alive. George Michael dead. But it would have been his birthday today, so happy birthday to all of his fans that are celebrating. Hopefully you're keeping the faith. Now, Elmore,
yes,
you've got to explain to me the situation regarding Project Veritas and the sting that they did of these big tech companies, namely Google. Explain to viewers that aren't familiar with the story what happened.
So Project Veritas,
this is James O'Keefe's group.
Yes, got a hold of someone who works at Google, who went undercover, you know, cloaked the face, and the voice was all electronic. And what they found out is that Google is not our friend, basically. They want to change the results of the 2020 election because they were so unhappy with 2016. They change what you see. If you look for Hillary Clinton's emails, nothing really comes up properly. So they're hiding information, biasing information. They are not a neutral third party. They are a serious political actor on behalf of liberals, period.
Do you buy this, Elmore? Have you seen any of these projects?
No, there's nothing not to buy. I mean, it's fact. They prove it.
Erin's a lot easier.
This is my shocked face. No, like, obviously.
And that's not just because we have Botox.
It's not just my Botox face.
So you
that's
both
my
have
real
Botox?
I mean, who doesn't?
Aren't you too young to have
New York
Botox?
City.
We're made of Botox.
No, we look young.
Our middle names are both Botox. It's Erin Botox and Erin Botox.
Women are actually in their 60s.
Yes, we are.
That's a ringing endorsement for Botox. But so, Elmore, the thing that is pretty alarming about this is not just that this goes on at Google, but the fact that these videos that Project Veritas did have actually been taken down. Is that right?
Yes, it was taken off of YouTube, which is owned by Google for privacy concerns, which means they just don't want it out there. The woman that they interviewed undercover says she was tricked. She said some really horrible things. You know, they call this our truth. We want to distribute the truth. There's nothing truthful about this. There is nothing honest about this. Everyone stop using Google and use DuckDuckGo. I'm not being paid by them.
DuckDuckGo?
DuckDuckGo is a browser that is unbiased, privacy. You know, they're not sharing all of your data. Stay away from Google.
Sykes, we've seen Facebook problems, we've seen YouTube problems, Twitter problems. My friend Roger Stone still banned from Twitter. Are we at the point where these big tech companies need to be regulated like utilities? The president.
What did he say?
The president seems to have pretty strong feelings.
That's what they want to do.
I mean, you know, it's borderline. I'm not for, you know, breaking up large companies. I think if you're a successful company and you have created a monopoly, then you know what? That's because you're doing things better than others. However, I do think that because we're blurring the lines between security and, you know, big companies and monopolies, that maybe we need to look into this particular issue.
Speaking of things that do, speaking of entities that do things better than the rest, Bill O'Reilly, who dominated cable news in prime time for 16 straight years, will be with John and me next in an interview that we recorded right before John left for Florida to be with the Vice President. So you're not going to want to miss that. Bill was very, very candid on a wide variety of subjects. Elmore, I want to ask you about this latest sexual assault allegation against President Trump. This reporter has indicated that President Trump tried to sexually assault her, did sexually assault her back in the early 1990s. She's written a new book where she puts this out there. The president not only saying this is not true, that he's never met her, but that she's trying to sell a book. He also said that she's not his type. Now, in response to that, this is what Miss Jean Carroll said just yesterday on CNN.
I love that. I am so glad I am not his type. I am so glad. This was 20 years ago. And I probably was, at that moment, in that 5 minutes, the most attractive woman in Bergdorf's in that one bit of time.
So, first of all, what do you make of the president's explanation that she wasn't my type? Is that really the best defense against a rape accusation?
Let me just say this. She is trying to sell books. You know what his type was. In the 90s, he was dating playmates and beautiful models. Does she look like she fits in that category?
Well, look, I mean, there's
That's
plenty
not his type. If his type is models, she's not a model. That's a factual statement.
There's plenty of non-models that get raped, but it doesn't sound...
No, that's two different things.
Right. But
we're not talking about who gets raped.
But is that a good enough excuse that she's not my type? Was that the best response from the president?
Not the best response. Probably 100% should have chosen his words better. But he's also looking for, tweetable moments and really getting to the gut. We know that the president doesn't always mean these kind of nasty things that he tends to say, but he gets to the point.
You don't buy any of this accusation?
No. I think that you watch either interview, and both done by CNN. They're both terribly awkward to watch. And even, Anderson Cooper went to commercial break immediately after. He didn't even want to deal with it. So when CNN is kind of shrugging something off, it has no bone.
Is it a problem, and not just this particular instance, but we saw this with the lieutenant governor of Virginia. Certain people believed and others didn't. And whether it's Democrat or Republican, it seems like whether or not you believe these sexual misconduct or sexual assault allegations.
Run so far, ran the New York City Marathon by. I mean, this was in the 1990s. She should have said something then.
I think that's a great point, Sykes. I mean, here we have a situation where we don't even have trial by jury. We have trial by media.
I think that's the continuing issue. I think that's the bigger issue here. And she said that she doesn't feel comfortable connecting with Donald and confronting him, with Mr. President Trump. Excuse me. But the fact is, if she feels comfortable making these statements to the media and making these statements on a book, why can she not confront somebody who did something so vicious to her?
Finally, yesterday the president issued an executive order on healthcare transparency. Very quickly, this is what the president said.
We will empower patients with the information they need to search for the lowest cost and the highest quality care. In other words, they'll be able to seek out their doctor, seek out the doctor they want, and they'll be given vast amounts of information about those doctors.
You guys get the last word. This should be something that Democrats and Republicans unite on, right?
Absolutely. I think this brings everyone together. Everyone's fair pricing.
Elmore?
Botox. Botox.
Fair pricing for Botox.
All right.
Botox should be covered by insurance.
Erin, I hope we can do this again soon. And hopefully John will be away next time you guys are here as well. This has been a lot of fun. Stay tuned because Bill O'Reilly, cable news legends coming up, and El Chapo's lawyer, Jeff Lichtman, will be here. You're watching Liquid Lunch. I'm Frank Morano.
Stay tuned for more Liquid Lunch Live. We'll be right back.